The auction hall smelled like metal and fear. Park Yuna stood on a raised platform made of cold steel. Her feet were bare. Her wrists had marks from the chains they removed just minutes ago. Around her stood other humans, men, women, some barely adults, all of them taken from Earth, all of them waiting to be sold. The hall was enormous. Bright lights hung from the ceiling, so bright that Yuna could barely see the crowd below. But she could hear them. Hundreds of alien voices speaking in languages she did not understand. Some laughed. Some argued about prices. To them, this was just another market day. Yuna had been here for 3 weeks. 3 weeks since the ships came to Earth. 3 weeks since the Galactic Trade Consortium declared humans a tradable species. 3 weeks since everything she knew ended. She remembered her small apartment in Seoul. She remembered her job at the bookstore. She remembered her mother's voice on the phone, telling her to run. She did not run fast enough. Now she stood on this platform, wearing thin gray clothes that all slaves wore. A number was printed on her chest. She was not Park Yuna anymore. She was Lot 47. The auctioneer was a tall creature with 4 arms and skin like dried leather. He spoke into a device that translated his words into many languages at once. His voice echoed through the hall. Next item, human female, young, healthy, good for domestic work or entertainment. Starting price, 5,000 galactic credits. Yuna did not look down. She had decided this on her first day here. She would not bow her head. She would not cry. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. The bidding began. Voices called out numbers. 5,000, 6,000, 8,000. Yuna watched the crowd with empty eyes. She saw creatures of all shapes and sizes. Some looked almost human. Others looked like nightmares given flesh. One bidder caught her attention. He stood near the back of the hall, away from the others. He was tall and thin, with pale silver skin that seemed to glow under the lights. His eyes were dark, completely dark, like pools of black water. He wore expensive clothes, the kind that rich merchants wore. He was not bidding. He was just watching. Yuna stared at him. She did not know why. Something about him felt different. He did not look at her like the others did. He did not look hungry or cruel. He looked tired, like someone who had seen too much and felt too little. Their eyes met. Yuna did not look away. She lifted her chin slightly. It was a small movement, but it meant everything. It meant, I see you. I am still here. I am not broken. The silver-skinned alien tilted his head. For a moment, something flickered in those dark eyes. Surprise? Interest? Yuna could not tell. 15,000, a rough voice shouted. Yuna turned to see the new bidder. Her stomach dropped. He was massive. His species was called Craxian. She had learned this in the holding cells. They were known for violence, for cruelty, for breaking their slaves in ways that left no marks on the body, but destroyed everything inside. This Craxian had scars on his face and arms, battle scars. His eyes were yellow and hungry. He looked at Yuna the way a predator looks at wounded prey. 15,000, the auctioneer repeated. Do I hear more? Silence. The Craxian smiled. His teeth were sharp and black. Yuna felt cold. She had promised herself she would not be afraid. But standing here, looking at this monster who would own her in seconds, she felt fear crawling up her spine like ice. This was it. This was how her story ended. Not with a fight, not with dignity, just sold to a creature who would destroy her piece by piece. 20,000. The voice was calm, quiet, but it cut through the noise like a blade. Everyone turned. The silver-skinned alien had raised his hand. His face showed nothing. No emotion, no interest. He could have been ordering a drink at a bar. The Craxian growled. 25. 30, the silver alien said, still calm, still bored. 35. 50. The hall went silent. 50,000 galactic credits for a human slave was unheard of. Humans were cheap. Humans were common. No one paid 50,000 for a human. The Craxian's yellow eyes burned with rage, but he did not bid again. He spat on the floor and walked away, shoving other aliens aside. Sold, the auctioneer said, to Kang Dawan of the Villani Trading House. 50,000 credits. Kang Dawan. So that was his name. Yuna watched as two guards came to take her off the platform. They led her through a side door, down a long hallway, and into a small room where her new owner waited. He stood by the window, looking out at the stars. Up close, he was even more striking. His silver skin was smooth like polished stone. His dark eyes held no warmth. He was beautiful in the way a statue is beautiful, perfect and cold. "You are Park Yuna," he said. His voice was deep and flat. "Formerly of Earth. No criminal record, no useful skills listed. You worked in a bookstore." "Yes," Yuna said. He turned to face her. "Do you know why I bought you?" "No." "Neither do I." They stood in silence. Yuna felt something strange. This was not what she expected. He was not grabbing her. He was not giving orders. He was just looking at her, like she was a puzzle he could not solve. Finally, Yuna spoke. Her voice was steady. Her eyes never left his. "You bought me. Now see it through." Dowan blinked. For the first time, his cold mask cracked. Just a little. Just enough for Yuna to see that something human, or something like human, lived behind those dark eyes. "What does that mean?" he asked. Yuna did not answer. She did not know herself. The words had come from somewhere deep inside her, a place that refused to surrender, a place that still believed in something. Dowan stared at her for a long moment. Then he turned and walked toward the door. "Come," he said. "My ship is waiting." Yuna followed him. Her feet were still bare. Her wrists still ached. But somewhere in her chest, a small flame flickered to life. She did not know what waited for her on his ship. She did not know if this alien was kind or cruel. She did not know anything about her future. But she knew one thing. She was still alive. And as long as she was alive, she would not stop fighting. The stars outside the window burned bright and cold. Somewhere among them was Earth. Somewhere among them was home. Yuna looked at them one last time. Then she stepped through the door and into the unknown. The ship was called the Silent Meridian. It was larger than any building Yuna had ever seen on Earth. The hull was dark gray, almost black, and curved like the body of a sleeping whale. Lights glowed along its sides like scattered stars. Yuna followed Kang Do-wan through the docking bay and into the main corridor. The floor was smooth and warm under her bare feet. The walls hummed with quiet energy. Everything was clean. Everything was expensive. Do-wan walked fast. He did not look back to see if she was following. He expected her to keep up. She did. Other crew members passed them in the corridor. Most of them were Villani like Do-wan, tall and silver-skinned with those strange dark eyes. They glanced at Yuna with curiosity but said nothing. One of them, a young female with short white hair, gave her a small nod. It was not friendly. It was not unfriendly. It was just acknowledgement. Yuna nodded back. They stopped at a door near the end of the corridor. Do-wan pressed his hand against a panel, and the door slid open. "This is your room," he said. Yuna stepped inside. The room was small but clean. There was a bed with white sheets, a desk with a computer terminal, a small bathroom through another door. A window showed the endless black of space. It was better than the holding cells. It was better than anything she had expected. "You will work as a domestic assistant," Do-wan said from the doorway. "You will clean. You will organize. You will help in the kitchen when needed. You will not enter restricted areas. You will not touch the navigation systems. You will not cause problems." "And if I do cause problems?" Yuna asked. Do-wan's eyes narrowed slightly. "Then we will have a conversation. Not punishment. I do not punish." His voice was flat, cold. "Punishment is for those who enjoy power over others. I do not enjoy anything." Yuna studied him. He stood perfectly still, like a statue carved from ice. But she had learned to read people in her years at the bookstore. Customers who pretended to be happy. Customers who hid their loneliness behind smiles. She could see the things people tried to hide. And right now she could see that Kang Do-wan was hiding something. Something heavy, something old. "Why did you buy me?" she asked again. "I already told you. I do not know." "That is not a good answer." "It is the only answer I have." He turned to leave. "Rest tonight. Work begins tomorrow. Someone will bring you food and proper clothes." He was gone before she could say anything else. Yuna sat on the bed. The mattress was soft. She had not felt something soft in weeks. For a moment she wanted to cry, not from sadness, from relief, from exhaustion, from the strange feeling of being treated like a person instead of cargo. But she did not cry. She had promised herself. Instead, she looked out the window at the stars and wondered what tomorrow would bring. The next morning, Yuna began her work. A crew member named Bayek Jimin showed her around the ship. Jimin was young, probably the same age as Yuna, with a quick smile and curious eyes. She was the pilot's assistant, and she talked constantly. "The captain is not as scary as he looks," Jimin said as they walked through the cargo bay. "He just does not know how to be warm. Some Villani are like that. Too much pain in their past. They freeze up inside." "Pain?" Yuna asked. Jimin glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "I should not tell you this, but everyone knows anyway. Dowan was a slave once. Long ago. When he was a child." Yuna stopped walking. "A slave?" "Yes. His whole family was sold when he was young. He was owned by a cruel master for many years. When the master died, he left everything to Dowan. Out of guilt, people say." Jimin shrugged. "Now Dowan is rich, but he never forgot what it was like. That is why he buys slaves sometimes." "To own them?" "No," Jimin smiled sadly. "To free them. He buys them and sets them free, gives them money, helps them start new lives. He has done this for decades." Yuna felt something shift inside her. She thought of Dowan's cold eyes, his flat voice, his strange answer when she asked why he bought her. He did not know why he kept her, because he never kept anyone, until now. "Why did he not free me?" Yuna asked quietly. Jimin looked at her for a long moment. "I do not know. Maybe you should ask him." But Yuna did not ask. Not that day, not the next day. She worked instead. She cleaned the common areas. She organized the supply rooms. She helped in the kitchen, learning to cook strange alien foods that smelled like nothing on Earth. Days turned into weeks. Yuna learned the ship. She learned the crew. She learned their names, their habits, their small kindnesses. And slowly she learned about Dowan. He was always working, always reading reports, always making deals through the communication systems. He ate alone in his quarters. He spoke to his crew only when necessary. He moved through the ship like a ghost, present but not really there. But sometimes Yuna caught him watching her. It happened in small moments. When she was laughing with Jimin in the kitchen, when she was reading a book she found in the ship's library, when she was standing by the observation window looking at the stars. She would turn and he would be there, watching, his dark eyes unreadable. Then he would look away and disappear down the corridor. One night Yuna finished her work late. The ship was quiet. Most of the crew was sleeping. She walked to the observation deck to watch the stars before bed. Dowan was already there. He stood by the window, his silver skin glowing faintly in the starlight. He did not turn when she entered. Yuna hesitated. Then she walked forward and stood beside him. They were silent for a long time. "You work hard," Dowan finally said. "I have always worked hard. The crew likes you. They are kind." Another silence. Outside, a distant planet glowed blue and green, like a marble floating in darkness. "Why do you not hate me?" Dowan asked suddenly. Yuna looked at him. "Should I? I bought you. I own you. By law, you are my property." "By law," Yuna repeated. "But laws do not decide who I am. I decide that." Dowan turned to face her. In the starlight, his eyes seemed less cold, less empty. There was something there now, something that might have been respect. "You are strange," he said. "Most humans I have met are broken by the time I buy them. They cry, they beg, they give up. But you," he shook his head. "You looked at me in that auction hall like you were the one in control." Yuna smiled faintly. "Maybe I was. Maybe you were," he agreed. They stood together in silence, watching the stars. Two people from different worlds, one who had bought, one who had been bought. But in that moment, they were just two souls sharing the same darkness. And somewhere in that darkness, something new was beginning to grow. 2 months passed on the silent meridian. Yuna found a rhythm in her days. She woke early, she worked, she ate with the crew, she read books in the library, she watched the stars before sleep. It was almost like having a life again. The crew had accepted her completely now. They no longer looked at her as a slave. They looked at her as one of them. Jimin became her closest friend, always talking, always laughing, always sharing gossip about the other crew members. Even the older Villani, who were strict and serious, treated Yuna with respect. She had earned it through her work, through her kindness, through her refusal to complain or feel sorry for herself. But more than anything, they respected her because of how she treated Dowan. She was the only one who spoke to him like a normal person, the only one who did not bow her head or lower her voice when he entered a room, the only one who looked him in the eyes and said exactly what she thought. At first, the crew was shocked. They expected Dowan to be angry, to punish her, to remind her of her place, but he never did. Instead, something strange happened. Dowan started appearing more often in the common areas. He started eating dinner with the crew sometimes. He started asking questions about their lives, their families, their hopes. It was small. It was awkward. He was clearly not used to normal conversation, but he was trying, and everyone knew it was because of Yuna. One evening, Yuna was in the kitchen preparing food. She was humming a song her mother used to sing, an old Korean melody about mountains and rivers and home. She did not notice Do-won standing in the doorway. He watched her for a long moment. The humming, the gentle movements, the small smile on her face. Something stirred in his chest. Something he had not felt in decades. He did not have a name for it. He was not sure he wanted one. "That song," he said. Yuna jumped slightly. She turned to see him. "How long have you been standing there?" "Long enough." He stepped into the kitchen. "What is that song?" "Something from Earth, from my country. My mother used to sing it when I was a child." Yuna's smile faded slightly. "I do not know if she is still alive." Dowan said nothing. What could he say? He knew what the invasion had done to Earth. He knew how many humans had died. He knew the odds of any single person surviving. "I am sorry," he said finally. Yuna looked at him. It was the first time he had ever apologized to her. The first time he had shown anything like emotion. "You did not invade Earth," she said. "You do not need to apologize. I am part of this galaxy, a galaxy that allows such things to happen." His voice was quiet, heavy. "That is enough reason to apologize." They stood in silence. The food bubbled on the stove. The ship hummed around them. Then Yuna did something unexpected. She reached out and touched his hand, just briefly, just a light touch of her fingers against his silver skin. "Thank you," she said. Dowan looked at her hand like he had never been touched before. Maybe he had not. Not like this. Not with kindness. He did not know what to say, so he simply nodded and left the kitchen. That night he did not sleep. 3 days later the pirates came. The silent Meridian was passing through a trade route near the border of controlled space. It was supposed to be safe. It was not. The attack came without warning. 4 ships appeared from behind an asteroid field, weapons already firing. The first blast hit the cargo bay. The second hit the engine room. Alarms screamed. Red lights flashed. The crew scrambled to their stations. Yuna was thrown against a wall as the ship shook. She heard screaming. She heard explosions. She smelled smoke. "Everyone to the safe rooms!" Jimin shouted over the chaos. "Move! Move!" But Yuna did not move to the safe rooms. Through the smoke, she saw something that made her blood freeze. The pirates had boarded. They were coming through a hole in the cargo bay wall, massive creatures with weapons and armor. They were killing everyone in their path. And Do-won was fighting them alone. He had a weapon in his hand, some kind of energy blade that glowed white. He moved fast, faster than Yuna thought possible. He cut down one pirate, then another, then a third. But there were too many. They surrounded him. One of them knocked the blade from his hand. Another kicked him to the ground. Yuna did not think. She grabbed a metal rod from a broken console and ran. She hit the first pirate from behind. The rod connected with his head and he fell. The second pirate turned toward her, surprised. She hit him too, again and again. "Yuna!" Do-won shouted. "Get back!" She did not get back. A third pirate swung his blade at her. She ducked, too slow. The blade cut her shoulder. Pain exploded through her body, but she did not stop. She swung the rod at the pirate's legs. He stumbled. Do-won grabbed his fallen blade and finished him. More crew members arrived with weapons. The fight turned. The pirates began to retreat. Within minutes, they were gone, fleeing back to their ships, leaving their dead behind. The silent Meridian was damaged but alive. Una collapsed against a wall, holding her bleeding shoulder. The pain was incredible. She had never been hurt like this before. Stars danced in her vision. Then Dowan was there. He knelt beside her, his hands pressing cloth against her wound. "Why did you do that?" he demanded. His voice was rough, angry, but beneath the anger she heard something else. Fear. "Why did you not run?" Una looked up at him. His silver face was splattered with blood. His dark eyes were wide. He looked more alive than she had ever seen him. "If I am going to belong to someone," she said weakly, "I will make sure they are worth protecting." Dewan stared at her. The words hit him like a physical blow. No one had ever protected him. Not since he was a child. Not since before he was sold. He had spent his entire adult life alone, building walls, keeping everyone at a distance. And now this human, this small, stubborn, impossible human, had thrown herself into battle for him, had bled for him, had looked at him like he mattered. He did not know what to do with that. "You are a fool," he whispered. "Maybe," Una said, "but I am alive." He carried her to the medical bay himself. He stayed while the doctors worked on her wound. He watched her face as she slept, peaceful despite the pain. And for the first time in many, many years, Kang Do-hwan felt something crack inside him. A wall he had built long ago, a wall he had thought would never break. He looked at this human woman who had saved his life, and he felt something terrifying. He felt hope. Una woke 3 days later in the medical bay. Her shoulder was wrapped in healing bandages that glowed with soft blue light. The pain was still there, but it was distant now, manageable. The first thing she saw was Do-wan sitting in a chair beside her bed. He was asleep. His head rested against the wall, his silver face peaceful in a way she had never seen before. The coldness was gone. The mask was gone. He looked almost human. Una watched him for a long moment. She studied the lines of his face, the curve of his mouth, the way his chest rose and fell with each breath. He had stayed. For 3 days, according to the doctors, he had barely left her side. He had canceled meetings, ignored business deals, refused to see anyone. For her. Una did not understand. She was a slave. She was property. She was nothing in the eyes of galactic law. Why would someone like him care about someone like her? Dewan's eyes opened. For a moment he seemed confused. Then he saw her watching him, and something flickered across his face. Relief, embarrassment. Something softer that he quickly hid. "You are awake," he said. "You stayed." He paused, looked away. "The doctors said someone should watch you, in case of complications." "For 3 days?" He did not answer. Una smiled. It was a small smile, weak from the injury, but real. "Thank you." Dowan stood abruptly. He walked to the window, keeping his back to her. His shoulders were tense. His hands were clasped behind his back. "There is something I need to tell you," he said. "Something I should have told you before." Una waited. "You asked why I bought you, why I kept you when I freed everyone else." He took a deep breath. "The truth is that I do not fully understand it myself, but I think I saw something in you, something I recognized." "What did you see?" "Myself." He turned to face her. His dark eyes were open now, vulnerable. "When I was young, younger than you, I was sold. My family was poor. My parents had debts they could not pay. The debt collectors took me as payment." Una felt her heart tighten. "I was sold to a merchant named Varric. He was cruel, not in obvious ways. He never beat me, never starved me. But he made sure I knew every single day that I was nothing, that I existed only because he allowed me to exist, that my thoughts, my feelings, my dreams, they meant nothing." Dewan walked slowly back to the chair and sat down. His voice was quiet, distant. "I spent 15 years with him, 15 years of being told I was worthless, 15 years of smiling and bowing and pretending I did not want to die." He looked at his hands. "By the end, I believed him. I believed I was nothing. What happened? Yuna asked softly. He got sick. A disease that slowly destroyed his mind. In his final months, he became confused, paranoid. He thought everyone was trying to steal from him. Everyone except me. Doan laughed bitterly. The slave he had broken so completely that I could not even imagine betraying him. He left everything to me, his ships, his business, his fortune, all of it. When he died, I became one of the richest beings in this sector. Yuna did not know what to say. She had imagined many things about Doan's past, but not this. I spent years trying to understand why he did it, Doan continued. Was it guilt? Was it some twisted form of love? I never found an answer. So I did the only thing I could think of. I started buying other slaves, and I set them free. How many? Yuna asked. Hundreds, maybe thousands over the years. I lost count. He shook his head. I gave them money, resources, helped them start new lives, and then I let them go. I never kept any of them. I never let myself get close. Why not? Because I was afraid. His voice cracked slightly. Afraid that if I let someone in, they would see what Varric saw. That I was nothing. That I was worthless. That I deserved what happened to me. Yuna sat up slowly, ignoring the pain in her shoulder. She swung her legs over the side of the bed and stood. Doan looked up at her with surprise. You should not be standing. Your injury. Be quiet, she said. She walked to him, slowly, carefully. When she reached his chair, she knelt down so their eyes were level. Listen to me, she said. You are not nothing. You are not worthless. What that man did to you was evil. The words he put in your head were lies, and you have spent your entire life proving him wrong. Doan stared at her. His dark eyes were wet. You saved hundreds of people, thousands of people. You gave them hope when they had none. You gave them freedom when they thought they would die in chains. She reached out and touched his face. Her fingers were warm against his cool silver skin. That is not nothing. That is everything. Yuna, his voice was barely a whisper. I do not know why you kept me. Maybe you do not know either. But I am glad you did. She smiled at him. Because now I can tell you the truth. Now I can tell you what I see when I look at you. What do you see? I see a good man. A broken man, yes. But good. Someone who has been hurt so badly that he forgot how to let people love him. Someone who deserves so much more than he has allowed himself to have. A tear slid down Doan's silver cheek. He reached up and covered her hand with his own. I do not know how to do this, he said. I do not know how to let someone in. I know, Yuna said. Neither do I. But we can learn together. For a long moment they stayed like that, kneeling on the floor of the medical bay, holding each other's hands, looking into each other's eyes. Something had changed between them, something that could not be undone. Finally, Doan spoke. I want to offer you freedom, he said. Real freedom, legal freedom. I will destroy your slave contract. I will give you money, resources, anything you need to start a new life. You can go anywhere you want, do anything you want. Yuna tilted her head. And if I do not want to leave? Doan blinked. What? You have not finished what you started, she said. Neither have I. It was the same thing she had said in the auction hall, the same words that had haunted him for months. And now finally he understood what they meant. She was not going anywhere. You are impossible, he said. Yes, Yuna agreed. I am. And for the first time in longer than he could remember, Kang Doan laughed. It was a real laugh, a human laugh, the sound of ice finally beginning to melt. Yuna laughed with him. Outside the window the stars burned on, distant and eternal, watching two broken souls begin to heal each other. The message came 3 weeks after Yuna left the medical bay. It arrived during dinner when the whole crew was gathered in the common room, laughing and sharing food. Doan's communication device buzzed. He glanced at it, and his face went pale. Everyone noticed. The laughter stopped. Jimin put down her cup. Yuna looked up from her plate. What is it? She asked. Doan did not answer immediately. He read the message again. Then a third time. His hands were shaking slightly. The Galactic Trade Consortium, he finally said. They are sending enforcers. The room went silent. Why? Jimin asked. Do-won looked at Yuna. His dark eyes were filled with something she had never seen before. Fear. Real fear. They found a legal loophole, he said slowly. When I bought Yuna at the auction, there was a processing error. The official transfer of ownership was never properly registered. According to their records, she is still the property of the auction house. That is ridiculous, one of the crew members said. You paid 50,000 credits. The payment is not the issue. The paperwork is. Do-won set down his device. They are claiming that Yuna is stolen property. They want her returned so she can be re-auctioned. The word hung in the air like poison. Re-auctioned. Sold again. To anyone. To the Craxian warlord who had wanted her the first time. To someone worse. Yuna felt cold. She had worked so hard to build a new life here. To find peace. To find hope. And now it was being ripped away because of a paperwork error. No, Do-won said. Everyone looked at him. I said no. His voice was different now, harder. The cold merchant mask was back, but this time there was fire behind it. I will not let them take her. Do-won, Jimin said carefully, these are consortium enforcers. If you resist them, they will destroy your trade license. They will seize your assets. They could imprison you. I know. Your entire life's work. I know. He stood up. His silver skin seemed to glow with intensity. And I do not care. He walked to the main control panel on the wall and began typing commands. His movements were sharp, precise, like a soldier preparing for battle. What are you doing? Yuna asked. Destroying the paperwork. He did not stop typing. Every record of your purchase, every document that calls you property, all of it, gone. That will only make things worse. They will have proof that you... Let them have their proof. He turned to face her. I am also burning my trade license. Effective immediately, I am no longer a registered merchant of the Galactic Trade Consortium. The crew gasped. Jimin stood up, her face white with shock. Do-won, you cannot... I can. And I am. He walked to Yuna and took her hands in his. I should have done this the moment I bought you. I should have declared you free that very day. But I was afraid. Afraid of what it would mean. Afraid of what I was feeling. Yuna looked into his dark eyes. And now? Now I am not afraid anymore. He squeezed her hands. You taught me something, Yuna. You taught me that some things are worth more than safety. Some things are worth fighting for. And you, his voice caught, you are worth everything. Before Yuna could respond, an alarm blared through the ship. Incoming vessels, the computer announced. 3 consortium enforcement ships. Weapons armed. It was happening. The enforcers were here. Do-won released Yuna's hands and turned to his crew. Everyone to your stations. We are not running. We are not hiding. We are standing right here. The crew moved. Some hesitated, but only for a moment. They had followed Do-won for years. They trusted him. And more than that, they had seen how Yuna changed him, how she brought light into their captain's darkness. They would not let her be taken either. The enforcers docked within the hour. 5 of them came aboard, tall, armored figures with weapons that glowed red. Their leader was a female Villani with cold eyes and a colder voice. Kang Do-won, she said, you have been ordered to surrender the human designated as Park Yuna, property of the Galactic Trade Consortium Auction Division. Failure to comply will result in criminal charges. Do-won stood in the middle of the cargo bay. His crew stood behind him, and Yuna stood at his side. She is not property, Do-won said calmly. She is a free passenger under the protection of House Do-won. House Do-won has no legal standing. You destroyed your trade license. Then I invoke the old rights, the laws that existed before the consortium, the laws that say any being who stands under someone's protection cannot be taken by force. The enforcer laughed. It was a cruel sound. The old rights? Those have not been used in centuries. They have not been abolished either. Do-won's voice was like ice. Check your records. The enforcer's smile faded. She pulled out a device and typed rapidly. Her eyes widened slightly. This is unprecedented. This is legal. Do-won stepped forward. You can try to take her by force, but if you do, you will be violating laws that are older than the consortium itself. Laws that even your masters must respect. The standoff stretched on. Seconds felt like hours. The enforcers gripped their weapons. The crew held their breath. Then another alarm sounded. Multiple vessels incoming, the computer announced. 20, 30, 50 ships. Transponders identify them as the Free Human Coalition. The enforcer's face went white. What? Everyone looked at the cargo bay windows. Ships were appearing from every direction. Human ships. Ships crewed by the people Dowan had freed over the years. The people he had saved. The people he thought had forgotten him. They had not forgotten. A voice crackled over the communication system. It was an older man speaking in accented English. Consortium enforcers, this is Commander Choi Minyuk of the Free Human Coalition. We have received word that you are attempting to illegally seize a free human citizen. We are here to remind you that we protect our own. And Kang Dawan, whatever his species, is one of our own. The enforcer looked at the ships, then at Dawan, then at Yuna. She was outnumbered, outgunned, out of options. This is not over, she said quietly. Yes, Yuna said, stepping forward. It is. The enforcer stared at her. This small human woman who should have been afraid, who should have been begging, who stood there instead with fire in her eyes and steel in her spine. You are making powerful enemies, the enforcer warned. I have powerful friends, Yuna replied. The enforcers left. Their ships retreated into the darkness of space. The Free Human Coalition ships remained, forming a protective circle around the silent meridian. When it was over, when the danger had passed, the crew erupted in cheers. They hugged each other. They laughed. They cried. Dawan stood silently, watching the celebration, watching Yuna as she was surrounded by grateful crew members. She looked at him across the room. Their eyes met, and in that moment, everything changed. He had given up everything for her, his license, his reputation, his safety, and he had gained something worth infinitely more, a home, a family, her. The celebration lasted long into the night. The crew drank and sang and told stories about the look on the enforcer's face when the coalition ships arrived. Someone found music from Earth, old songs that Yuna had not heard in years, and played them through the ship's speakers. But eventually the party ended. The crew went to their quarters. The lights dimmed. The silent meridian grew quiet. Yuna found Dowan in the observation deck, alone. He stood by the window, watching the coalition ships drift in formation around them. His silver skin reflected the distant stars. He looked tired, peaceful, different. You should be resting, Yuna said softly. So should you. She walked to stand beside him. They watched the stars together in comfortable silence. Min Hyuk contacted me, Dowan said after a while. The commander of the coalition. He wants to meet in person tomorrow. What did you tell him? I told him yes. Dowan glanced at her. He asked about you specifically. He said there are humans across the galaxy who have heard your story. The woman who was bought and never broke. The woman who protected her master and became his equal. Yuna smiled faintly. I am not his equal. I am just... You are my equal. Dowan turned to face her fully. You have been my equal since the moment you looked at me in that auction hall. I was just too blind to see it. Yuna felt warmth spread through her chest. She had spent so long being looked down on, being treated as less than human. Hearing someone say those words and mean them felt like sunlight after a long winter. Why did you really do it? She asked. Burn your license. Risk everything. You could have let them take me. You could have found someone else to free. Why me? Dowan was quiet for a moment. He seemed to be searching for words. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Because when I look at you, I see something I thought was dead inside me. Hope, joy, the belief that life can be more than just surviving. He reached up and touched her face gently. His silver fingers were cool against her skin. You reminded me what it feels like to be alive. Yuna felt tears forming in her eyes. She did not stop them. I spent so many years building walls, Dowan continued, keeping everyone at a distance, telling myself that I did not need anyone, that I was better off alone. His thumb brushed away a tear that had fallen down her cheek. Then you came, and you did not try to break my walls. You simply walked through them like they were not even there. I was not trying to. I know. That is what made it so terrifying. You were not trying to change me. You were just being yourself, and yourself was enough to make me want to be better, to be more, to be someone worthy of standing beside you. Yuna took his hand and held it against her face. She could feel his pulse beneath his skin, steady, strong, real. You are worthy, she said. You always were. They stood there holding each other in the starlight. The universe stretched endlessly around them. Billions of stars, countless worlds, infinite possibilities. And yet, in that moment, nothing else existed except the two of them. Dowan leaned closer. His dark eyes searched her face, asking a question he could not put into words. Yuna answered. She kissed him. It was gentle at first, tentative, the first touch of two souls who had been alone for too long. Then it deepened, became something more, something that spoke of all the words they could not say. When they finally pulled apart, Dowan's eyes were wide. His silver skin had flushed slightly darker around his cheeks. Yuna, he breathed, do you know what you just did? I kissed you. In Vellani culture, he paused, struggling to explain. When someone under protection kisses their protector, it is not just a kiss. It is a vow, a declaration. It means what? Yuna asked, though something in her heart already knew. It means partnership, equals bound together by choice. It means, he swallowed. In human terms, it would be called marriage. Yuna stared at him. Then she laughed. It was not a mocking laugh. It was a laugh of joy, of wonder, of something that felt impossibly, beautifully right. Are you saying I accidentally married you? Technically, you proposed to me, and by not pulling away, I accepted. Well, Yuna smiled up at him. I suppose there are worse fates than being married to a handsome alien who gave up his entire fortune for me. Dowan's eyes widened further. You are not upset? Upset? She reached up and pulled him down for another kiss. When she released him, she was grinning. I have been waiting for you to see what was obvious for months. I was starting to think you would never figure it out. Figure what out? That I love you, you beautiful fool. The words hung in the air like music, like starlight, like the first breath after drowning. Dowan felt something break inside him, the last remaining piece of his wall, the final barrier between his heart and the world. And in its place, something new began to grow, something warm, something alive. I love you too, he whispered. I think I have loved you since the auction hall. I was just too afraid to admit it, too afraid that I would lose you, that I did not deserve you. You deserve everything. Yuna wrapped her arms around him and held him tight. And now you are stuck with me. There is no place I would rather be stuck. They held each other as the stars wheeled slowly past the window. Two people from different worlds, two souls that had found each other against all odds. Outside, the coalition ships kept their silent watch. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles, new threats from a galaxy that still considered humans property. But tonight, none of that mattered. Tonight, there was only this. Two hearts beating as one. Two voices making promises in the dark. Two people choosing each other, again and again, forever. You bought me, Yuna whispered against his chest. Now I am keeping you. Dowan laughed softly. His arms tightened around her. I think, he said, that was always the plan. The stars burned on, eternal and uncaring. But in the small pocket of warmth they had created together, Yuna and Dowan had found something the stars could never give. They had found home. Representatives from 1,000 species sat in rising tiers around the central platform. Their voices created a constant hum, like a hive of bees. Some spoke in languages that sounded like music. Others made sounds that humans could not even hear. The air smelled of 100 different worlds. This was the heart of galactic civilization, the place where laws were made, where the fate of entire species was decided, where the powerful gathered to shape the future. And today, a human was about to address them. Yuna stood backstage looking at the crowd through a gap in the curtain. Her heart was beating fast, but her hands were steady. She wore clothes she had designed herself, a mix of Earth fashion and Vellani style, a symbol of two worlds coming together. Dowan stood beside her. He was dressed in formal Vellani attire, his silver skin gleaming under the lights. His dark eyes were fixed on her face. "Are you ready?" he asked. "No," Yuna smiled, "but I will do it anyway." He took her hand and squeezed it gently. "I will be right there, whatever happens." "I know." A voice called her name. It was time. Yuna walked onto the platform. The noise of the crowd faded to silence. Thousands of eyes of every shape and color imaginable turned to watch her. She was small. She was human. She was a former slave standing in the most powerful room in the galaxy, and she was not afraid. "Honored representatives," she began. Her voice was carried by speakers throughout the hall. "My name is Park Yuna. 1 year ago, I stood on an auction platform. I had a number printed on my chest. I was sold like furniture." The crowd murmured. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked curious. "I was bought by a man named Kang Do-wan. Many of you know his name. You know that he destroyed his trade license to protect me. You know that he stood against the consortium enforcers. What you may not know is why." She paused, looking across the sea of faces. "He did it because he saw something in me that this galaxy has forgotten. He saw a person, not property, not a number, not a commodity to be traded, a person with thoughts and dreams and a heart that refuses to break." Her voice grew stronger with each word. "I am here today as proof that humans are not weak. We are not lesser. We are not meant to be owned." She lifted her chin. "I am here as co-captain of the Silent Meridian, as voice of the Human Liberation Front, and as the legal spouse of Kang Do-wan, under both Villani custom and the old rights that this very council established centuries ago." The murmuring grew louder. Spouse. She had said spouse. A human married to a Villani merchant. It was unprecedented, scandalous, beautiful. "Some of you think humans are a young species, that we have no history, no value, that we exist only to serve." Yuna's eyes swept across the crowd. "Let me tell you what humans are." She began to walk slowly across the platform, her footsteps echoing in the silence. "We are the species that looked at the stars from caves and dreamed of touching them. We are the species that built civilizations from nothing, that created art and music and stories that made us weep and laugh and hope. We survived ice ages. We survived wars. We survived plagues that killed millions. And every single time, we got back up." Her voice rang through the hall like a bell. "You may have ships that cross galaxies. You may have weapons that destroy planets. You may have laws that say we can be bought and sold. But you do not have what we have." She stopped in the center of the platform. "You do not have our spirit, our stubborn, impossible, unbreakable spirit. The thing inside us that looks at the darkness and says, 'No, I will not stop. I will not bend. I will fight until my last breath.'" Somewhere in the balcony, a voice called out, "What do you want?" Yuna turned toward the voice. "I want the human slave trade ended. Completely. Forever. I want every human in chains to be freed. I want recognition of human rights under galactic law." Laughter rippled through parts of the crowd. Someone shouted, "And why should we give this to you?" Yuna smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Because we will never stop fighting for it. Because every human you enslave becomes a fire that will burn until it consumes everything in its path. Because we have already built a coalition of 50,000 freed humans, and that number grows every day." She gestured toward the balcony where Dewan stood with Commander Minhyuk and dozens of other humans. "But more than that, because there are beings like my husband who believe that no species should be property. Because there are good people in this galaxy who know that slavery is evil. Because history remembers those who stood against injustice, and it remembers those who did nothing." The hall was completely silent now. "You have a choice," Yuna said. "You can be remembered as the generation that ended human slavery, or you can be remembered as the ones who tried to stop us and failed." She looked directly at the High Council, the 12 most powerful beings in the galaxy. "You bought us. You brought us into your galaxy against our will. Now see it through. Give us our freedom, or watch us take it." The silence stretched on. Seconds. Minutes. Then from the balcony, a single human began to clap. Then another. Then a dozen. Then hundreds. The sound built like thunder, echoing through the chamber. And slowly, impossibly, some of the alien representatives began to join in. Yuna stood in the center of it all. She found Do Wan's eyes across the room. He was smiling, that rare, beautiful smile that she had first seen the night he laughed with her in the medical bay. She smiled back. After the assembly, after the votes were counted, after the resolution to end human slavery passed by a narrow margin, Yuna and Do Wan stood on the observation deck of the Coalition flagship. Below them, thousands of ships gathered. Human ships. Ships crewed by freed slaves. Ships that would carry the news to every corner of the galaxy. "You did it," Do Wan said quietly. "We did it." Yuna leaned against him. "I could not have done any of this without you." "You could have. You are the strongest person I have ever known." She turned to look at him. Her husband, her partner, her equal. "When you bought me," she said, "I told you to see it through. I did not know what I meant. I just knew that my story was not over, that I had more to do, more to be. And now I know what I meant." She took his hand. "I meant that we were going to change the galaxy. Together." Doan leaned down and pressed his forehead against hers, a Vellani gesture of deep affection. "You have changed more than the galaxy," he whispered. "You have changed me." "Good," she kissed him softly. "Because I plan to keep changing things for a very long time." Behind them, the stars burned with cold fire. Ahead of them, a universe of possibilities waited. And Park Yuna, former slave, current co-captain, voice of the Human Liberation Front, spouse of Kang Do-wan, walked forward to meet it with her head held high. Her story was not ending. It was just beginning. ND.